Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Does a great job covering the NFL, correspondent for the NFL Network on a Tuesday. Good to talk to you again, my friend. How you been?
Doing good, Q. It's finally a good week last week in terms of seeing those first-year coaches get some wins.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to some of the big news. We'll start with the Wentz. Wentz obviously going to get the nod under center against the Colts on Sunday. Listen, I think at the end of the day, you can't keep him in bubble wrap. It was the right move. He's cleared. He's ready to go. To me, it's end of story. I don't know what the expectations are, but I don't believe there's a ton of pressure on Carson Wentz. I think he just has to go out and just be Carson Wentz. And if this team can clean up a couple things, they'll be a playoff team.
Definitely. They're right in the mix in this division. And as I always say, you got to look divisionally first. And I think they have the opportunity to win this division. Obviously, you see that the Redskins struggled like we thought they would. The Giants are not the team we think at 0-2. And he's going to come in there and provide some consistency to that offense. Nick Foles did a nice job in winning the first game. But then this last game, I know he didn't look too bad in terms of yardage and everything, but there were some throws that were missed. So the team believes in Carson Wentz, and I think they'll definitely lift him up and protect him out there.
Yeah, I agree. Now, are you surprised that they didn't make a run for Gordon?
Well, Q, a lot of people have been asking me about Gordon and where he fit and where he doesn't fit. With the Eagles, what they do is I just don't know if he's a character fit for him. Yes, they have a lot of needs at the receiver position at the moment, particularly Mike Wallace breaking his leg, and he's going to be out for some time. But, you just have to wonder, is this guy such a wild card? Is he going to fit anywhere in NFL? Is he going to follow the rules? And is he going to be a headache coming into the locker room? So the Eagles made the decision not to go after him, and now he's a Patriot.
And I said this before, I just think it's a Patriots way. I mean, they believe they can reel a player in and control the player. And maybe it's 75-25, he finishes the season with him, but who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fits. And I started going back, looking at the history, of course, Belichick and guys he's brought in, like Randy Moss, Corey Dillon, even Michael Floyd a couple years ago. They bring him in after his trouble, and they all kind of fit into the system, kind of were low-key and just did their job. That's the way they like it in New England. But there's been other guys like Albert Hainsworth and Ocho Cinco that just didn't get it. I remember a guy, Jonas Gray, who had he did real well one week, and then he didn't show up for practice. And, he got too big for his britches. And next thing Belichick sends him walking down the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, the Patriots at the end of the day, they figure out a way, and sometimes it works, sometimes it does. And how about the mess in Pittsburgh? I was just talking to a couple guys about this early this morning when Antonio Brown, and, it was the Bell distraction, holding out. You got Tomlin, can't reel the team in. Now you got Brown getting into it, a reporter, getting in with people on Twitter, really showing lack of maturity, really showing a ton of lack of maturity, to be honest with you. And then basically not showing up for work, didn't show up to work on Monday. And Tomlin, to me, I mean, you're losing this team quickly. You really are. You are losing. You have to reel it in right now and stop the madness, because this team is lucky they got out of Cleveland with a tie, and then their defense got whacked Sunday against Kansas City.
Yeah, Q. Right now, his team 0-1-1 at this point, and it's looking very ugly. And they're supposed to be winning the Steelers' way, which is tough, consistency, discipline, and they're just not looking that way. All the talent in the world on this roster, particularly in offense, but they just did not seem to be gelling. Mike Tomlin, a guy who's been on hot seat, let's face it, the last couple of years, because he's only won 3 playoff games in the last 8 seasons. So, yes, he has that Super Bowl under his belt, but he needs to do a better job in terms of reeling in his locker room. We saw that a couple of years ago with Brown and that whole, FaceTime or whatever he did after the playoff loss in the locker room. So, this is something that Tomlin, it's his team. They've given him the keys to the car, but he's got to make sure it's driving in the right direction.
Yep, I agree to that. All right, you look around the NFL. What about Vontae Davis retiring at halftime? I made the joke yesterday. I was wondering, was it, before or after they handed out the orange wedges? I've never in my life I've ever heard of a player basically quitting, retiring at halftime. I mean, that's, to me, you let the fan base down, you let your teammates down, your head coach, and that's somewhat embarrassing to me. I mean, finish it out, will you? At least finish it out a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible. I coach Pee Wee football for my sons, and we've had situations where a kid was like, I'm done, I'm quitting at the half. But
yeah, but that's
you never
a kid.
think that a professional guy would do that.
Right.
That's what he basically did. You thought maybe he'd fake pull a hamstring or something and sit on the bench, but he literally left the locker room and said, I'm out of here. So, it does not have a good look for Sean McDermott. I know McDermott's trying to bring that disciplined way, him and Brandon Beane coming from the Panthers. But right now that team looks like they're the worst in the NFL, and that roster needs a lot of work.
Well, listen, that distinction might go to the Giants in a couple more weeks because their offensive line is shambles. And I think when that quarterback is looking at the pass rush and he's not looking down the field, Soldier has been a bust. Flowers is still inconsistent. You lose your center. Hernandez has just gotten absolutely destroyed the first 2 weeks. Now, look, I get it. It's against Jacksonville, but Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys, it's not like Dallas and Marinelli were doing anything outside the box. They were running a couple stunts, and it was all about position football and assignment football. There were no swim moves. They were just bull rushes, and the Giants could not pick up any of the blitz. I mean, how concerned are you that quarterback has taken a ton of shots and he's never missed a game due to injury in his career? And it's brutal to watch. I really believe they're wasting away his last couple of years.
Yeah, right now Eli's got that Eli look where he's kind of the deer in the headlights and he's just wondering where everything's coming from. And let's face it, he's never been a guy that's going to kind of move away from pressure. If he's feeling it, he's going to kind of go down. And he got sacked 6 times in that game. They had 8 tackles for loss in terms of running plays as well, Dallas did. And he just did not look comfortable there. So, you thought the whole problem was McAdoo and his mess, but Shermer's coming here, and there's a lot more work to be done. I know him and Dave Gettleman are going to look at that roster, and they're probably going to have to turn some things around. But the big thing, as you were saying, is how many more years left does Eli Manning have? And they didn't draft that quarterback, and then they cut Davis Webb.
They overvalued their talent on that roster. That's why they had to make 11 moves on the waiver wire. That's unheard of. They overvalued the talent. And for all the position players and the talent that they have, that's embarrassing product that they put out the last 2 years. And this is where I had this argument when people sit there and say, well, this is why you should have drafted a quarterback. I don't care who you draft. I don't care what quarterback you draft. This year, next, if that offensive line is the same, you're really going to put a rookie under center because he might be a little more mobile under that offensive line? He'd get destroyed. He would get killed. It doesn't matter who's back there. The line stinks.
Yeah, the line is not good. They replaced 4 to 5 starters and then moved Flowers around. And, they invested in Solder, and we know Hernandez is probably going to be a good player, but a lot of holes up front, and they're not picking anything up, as you're saying. Just not playing that physical Giants football that we're used to. And to give you a notion of how bad this team is, right now they have not scored 30 points since Week 17 of 2015. So a lot of work to be done, a lot of big names on that. And, at 0-2, it's desperation Sunday going to Houston.
Please, that quarterback's going to be running for his life on Sunday. It's just embarrassment. It's just painful to watch. And, Coughlin in Jacksonville's got to be grinning. I mean, look at the machine. Look, listen, I never wanted Coughlin gone, and look what he's doing in Jacksonville right now. He's got the right head coach. You've got that defense. They smacked around New England without Fournette. Bortles made plays, but that defense is absolutely lights out. I mean, how are we just scratching the surface here with that defense?
Yeah, you have to say Jacksonville and the Rams have the 2 best defenses, and then you got to throw in the Vikings. But when you look at the Jaguars, they were unafraid in that game. They just kept throwing haymakers. They kind of laid back in that playoff game, and they learned their lesson, and they just put the pedal to the metal. And as you're saying, the Patriots looked a little old in that game. And defensively, they just kept coming after Brady, who lost to Jacksonville for the first time. He was 8-0 previously, so they came after him. And Bortles, you got to tip your cap to him. 377 yards passing, 4 TDs, and only 1 interception.
What's your overall take on Mahomes? I get it's only been a couple games. I'm a believer in him. I love the type of offense they're running there in Kansas City under Andy Reid. They got a ton of speed. They're playing defense. They can put up points, but I know he's going to come back down to earth. But I still believe there's a reason that they decided to move away from Alex Smith. To me, they drafted this kid because they believed he was going to supplant Alex Smith.
Yeah, and it's funny because you and I talked during the preseason where he hit that big throw, and we all like, man, did you see that ball in the air? And he just got it out of his hands quickly. But he has so many playmakers around him, and Andy Reid talked to Texas Tech and some of the coaches down there to incorporate some of his air raid formations, and he's working to his strengths. So they're going open. a lot of receivers going out in patterns, and the kid is just whipping the ball out. 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. He only had 5 incompletions and 6 touchdowns against the Steelers. It was incredible.
I heard Deshaun Jackson's comments early this morning regarding Fitzpatrick, and I think it's a great story. The NFL needs great stories. I didn't see this coming. I always thought Fitzpatrick had that gunslinger mentality as well, and he's a guy that can put up some ridiculous numbers here and there, but there's a reason he's bounced around the NFL throughout his entire career. But I agree with Deshaun. I said it yesterday. There's absolutely no way when Winston comes back, if Fitzpatrick keeps playing lights out, he seems to be on the same page with these wide receivers. They're having fun. He loves the offense. They're opening up the playbook. And if you're Dirk Cutter, the hell with feelings, right? If Winston comes back off that suspension, I believe you ride the hot hand of Fitzpatrick.
You definitely do. And I think that's what Dirk Cutter's going to have to do. Let's face it, he was on the hot seat with the Glazer family down there. And he needs to win games. And Fitzpatrick has provided spark in the team, the unquestioned leader of that locker room. The guys like being around him. And unfortunately, Jameis Winston, with his immaturity issues, is not there. He's suspended he's going to serve his 3rd game this week, and then he'll be back. But I fully expect Fitzpatrick to be back under center again. And he's facing a very good matchup against the Steelers, whose defense can't stop anybody right now this Monday night coming up.
What's your overall sentiment, the NFC picture? I know it's only 2 weeks in, but the Rams, to me, on paper, the most balanced team. I thought Minnesota and Green Bay, again, that was a goofy game with some of these penalties that we'll get into for a moment. But how about the Rams and what they've been able to do early on this year?
Yeah, the Rams look like a very complete team. Last year we kept talking about the Eagles and how they were just good in all phases. And you see the Rams didn't even have their kicker this week, and they still were able to shut out their opponent. Right now, with all those defensive superstars on our team, they look like they can't be stopped. And then offensively, you bring in Cooks, and he's making big plays. Gurley has the most rushing attempts by anybody in the league. Just an overall good team. So right now you have to say they stand out. The NFC North, I think, as you were talking about, is going to be a pretty good fight. That game was a tie, and if the kickers would step up, maybe Green Bay wins that game. But, I fully expect also the Bears as well, who looked pretty good defensively last night. So, that should be a very good divisional fight as well.
You mentioned some of these issues here, right? With some of the penalties and the personal fouls. How about this? How about you look at that game and what's a clean tackle, what's what's not a clean tackle, and some of the roughing the passer calls. I mean, are they over protecting some of these quarterbacks? Because Matthews did everything, right? It was a textbook play, not the other night, but you saw it the other night. That was a textbook tackle.
Yeah, to me, and I talked about with the Aaron Donald hit against Carr in week 1. It's just something you look at, and eyeball test says, look, he didn't rough him. He didn't try to hurt him. He was just making a football play. And as you're saying, he's lowering his level. He's hitting the guy at the right angle. He's not trying to lift him up, as that referee said. And that turned that game because that potential interception by Alexander, that would have closed the game out for the Packers. So I know these officials want to keep the quarterbacks in the game, but I think they're being a very overly sensitive in terms of these hits that they're calling. They're putting the full weight on the guy, and they're calling roughing the passer. I just think it's ridiculous.
I agree 100%. Listen, before I let you get out of here, I was talking a little bit about the Gordon situation with Cleveland and the Browns, and if they want to just rip the Band-Aid off and change a culture, this, that, the other thing, then why not just go to Mayfield? And I know Taylor had the big play on 4th down, but why not just turn around and just start fresh? If that's the case, then start Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor's out there trying to make plays, but in the end, everyone knows, Baker Mayfield is going to be the guy. So I expect him to fully be ready to go in the next couple of weeks. And as you're saying, this team needs a spark. Let's face it, Hugh Jackson is trying to save his job. And it may be Thursday night where they finally get that much-needed win, because I think a win would kind of spur this team along. And getting Gordon out of the locker room, a guy who's just kind of a malcontent, may help this team as well. So need some changes, and definitely Mayfield will be the guy coming in.
Yeah, well, we shall see. All right, always good stuff. Appreciate a couple moments. We will talk next Tuesday. Enjoy the games this weekend. Good insight as always, bud.
All right, thanks for having me on.